All right, folks. It's great to have all of you here today. What a broadcast. I mean, this is going to be amazing. Our good friend Bob Kudla is with us from TradeGeniusAcademy.com, and he is absolutely all over the world currency and Bitcoin or cryptocurrency markets. And because people are wondering what's going on, you got the old style, the old currency that's controlled by the governments of the world. And then you have the cryptocurrencies that's controlled by the people. And he is seeing a phenomenon. Bob, great to have you with us today.
Oh, hey, Paul. Great to be here, and happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you so much, and the same to you and your family. Bob, I mean, wow, what in the world is going on? Because it seemed like you and I talked a few months ago, and Bitcoin was worth about the same amount as an ounce of gold. And that has changed, hasn't it?
It sure has, Paul. This is the first of three what we call recognition events, and now what people are finding out, you know, and this is a worldwide phenomenon, Paul. This isn't a U.S. phenomenon. You know, you have the central bankers from around the world have created over $50 trillion in fake currencies that are they're turning around and they're buying, you know, the stock markets and the bond markets of the world to keep, you know, the Ponzi scheme from absolutely collapsing. But the collateral damage is the middle class from around the world. And people figured out, you know, February or March of this year, people figured out, hey, we can opt out. And, you know, we've been trading cryptocurrencies, and my partner's been trading them since pretty much when it began. You know, he got heavy into it in 2011, so he's a cryptomaniac, and he's been doing it for a long time. And you know, what people found out is what he already knew is that you can escape being in the banking system. And I think when people saw what happened in 2008, the bankers are starting to talk the same way again, Paul. You know, you have in Europe saying, hey, we're going to drop deposit insurance. You have the Federal Reserve here in the United States saying, hey, if we go in another recession, we're going to go to negative interest rates. You know, you have basically, you know, and I'm putting it on Trump's feet, so I don't want to get into that sidebar, but, you know, people expected healthcare to get fixed. It's not fixed. It's worse.
Right.
People expected the tax cuts that are coming to benefit the middle class. That's what they were told. Now they're finding out they're actually going to get tax increases so they can continue to fund the corporate Ponzi's that are going on to keep the stock market going by lowering the corporate tax rate, excuse me, and the 0.1% wealthy so that they can continue to provide, you know, income to the politicians.
I mean, it really does. It does seem that way, Bob, that what we were told, and I think this is what's fueled the stock market, is the whole year the guys at Wall Street and guys everywhere were told, small business owners as well as mid-range and corporate companies were told that major tax cuts were coming, especially the middle class was supposed to get major tax cuts, and that was kind of fueling the small businesses. They were saying, hey, we can invest a little because tax cuts are coming. But what we're hearing is it's a tax reform. It's not a tax cut. The tax cuts is going to be for the wealthy corporations, but the middle class, I don't see how they might end up paying more. Am I right?
Yeah, they will, and especially if you're in a high tax or a high cost state, you're essentially screwed over, and you know, you're gonna get less deductions. You know, and you know, people laugh, like, you know, if you say you make $100,000, people are like, oh, you're rich. But if you're in California, you know, you're barely above the poverty level, you know, in terms of what it costs to live out here, and so they're taking whacks at people's tax cuts, you know, I mean tax deductions, and then they're going after the mortgage deductions. You know, these people can't be satisfied till they have it all, Paul. And you know, they're going to end up being kings of dunghills because it's just going to literally collapse, you know, the whole middle class, and you know, you're not going to be safe. So the bankers are going to say, hey, I need to be protected again, and they'll start locking down deposits. And people say, well, I don't have much in there. Well, guess what? Your employer does. And if they start locking your deposits down, guess what? You may not get your payroll check. So people have figured out with cryptocurrencies that, I can opt out. People in Venezuela are happy they have Bitcoin. People in Saudi Arabia that had Bitcoin are happy they had Bitcoin.
Well, and let's help the audience understand this. The reason, folks, is that countries like Venezuela that are a socialist society, or some of these other countries that have rogue regimes, people realize that they're not in control of their destiny, that the government, there's too much gouging, that they're being overtaxed. So what they're doing is they're going to this new cryptocurrency to get around government regulation, so that it's people doing business with people without Big Brother reaching in and grabbing most of it. And so you got countries like the Venezuelan business people, I'm sure the Russians, I guarantee a lot of these countries, people are doing business outside of their governments because the government does not control Bitcoin or the other cryptocurrencies. Is that right, Bob?
Yeah, they can't. They'd have to literally shut down the entire internet worldwide for them to do it. And Japan and Switzerland have already said we fully embrace this for two very different reasons. The Japanese know they have to have an outlet for their people because their currencies are going to collapse. And the Swiss are like, hey, we're always a safe haven. So, they're not going to buy in. So if the U.S. says, well, it's illegal, and Japan and Switzerland says it's not, they can't get your money. It's, your coins, because cryptocurrency is everywhere and nowhere at the same time, Paul. If you walk down the street and you want to get your money out of a crypto exchange in the U.S., you can. And if you fly across the world and you go to South Korea and you want to get your money out, it's there. You can't do that with gold. You can't do that with cash. You can't do that with stocks. The governments can get in your way, but they can't get in your way on the cryptocurrencies because it literally is in your mind.
Yeah,
you own the key.
So now we've seen some things happening. Of course, now I don't know anything. I'll be honest with you. I'm a layman. Okay, I don't have cryptocurrency. I don't really even understand it that much. I can kind of see the conception of it. I see what people are doing, and I understand that what they're doing is they're doing business and they're trading without being regulated by the governments of the world, and that is why they feel more freer about it. And, we know that the New World Order, biblically, from a prophecy standpoint, is ultimately going to have a one world currency managed in a mark of the beast system, some kind of system to manage it. So what you're talking about is people are trying right now to create a currency that nobody can manage, that just the people involved. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I couldn't say it better myself, Paul. You're exactly right. So this is no one owns this. You can't censor it. You can't counterfeit it. You can't confiscate it. And at the same and also there's a limited supply. And it's just like cash. It could buy and sell things like cash. It has the scarcity value of gold, but it has the transportability and the other scarcity and the ability to not get confiscated, which is better than gold and silver. Now, I'm not saying gold and silver are bad. What I'm saying is that this is another tool in your arsenal that the bankers can't get to. In 1933, Roosevelt confiscated gold, right? In the 90s and the 2000s, the Europeans were confiscating bank accounts. You get a rogue regime, as you talk, come in and look what Saudi Arabia did. He called all the princes in and took almost $1 trillion from them. I guarantee you some of those princes that have money in Bitcoin, they still have their Bitcoin. They may have lost all their stocks, their bonds, their whatever, but they still have their Bitcoin because that king can't get to it. He doesn't even know they have it.
It's amazing, folks, what the Saudi crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, what he did. He's next to the throne. He's next to be the next king of Saudi Arabia. He just went and arrested 49 guys, and it was almost $1 trillion worth of wealth. He just threw them in prison, basically, and took all their cash And, that's it. It didn't matter how long they worked. It didn't matter how much they invested. Don't matter how much they sweated and made it happen. He just robbed them all, which is unreal. I mean, thinking that a government could do that. But, folks, that's exactly what any government could do to people if it so chose to, especially if they didn't have some kind of a security. Nothing's really secure in this world, but as long as it didn't have a rogue regime. I mean, you think of Saudi Arabia, you don't think of them as a rogue. They're a monarchy, but monarchies can pull this stuff off, and they can do this. So let me ask you a question. Look, we're getting ready to get a new Fed chair in the United States. Who in the world determines a cryptocurrency's value? If there's no government oversights, if the governments of the world, if the central bankers are not involved, if the Illuminati boys, if the Rothschilds don't get a vote, tell me, who controls the value? Who decides that Bitcoin's worth $8,000 a coin? Who makes that call?
Yeah, so what happened is, reason why 7 and 8,000 have been hit, Paul, is this is the first. That's why I said it's the first of recognition events. This $8,000 of all the Bitcoins that are available give people purchasing power parity of a U.S. dollar before the central banks have started. And so what's happening is that over the next probably 12 to 18 months, Bitcoin's going to rise in value to give people purchasing power equivalents before all the central bankers started to go nuts here, primarily from 1970s on. And so you're looking at Bitcoin probably going $25,000 to $40,000, and all it's doing is basically fixing past sins of monetization by the central bankers. And so, and eventually then the marketplace decides what it's worth. So there's only going to be 21 million coins created. There's more than 21 million millionaires. So can you imagine every millionaire just buys one of them? And then that becomes the coin of the realm, if you will, worldwide. And you get, international trade is then solid. And then it doesn't really matter what happens to the dollar. People have the Bitcoin. Somebody put a chart up the other day that said, the dollar has collapsed in Bitcoin terms. And, that's kind of half facetious. But what it's saying is that, look, in March of this year, you could have got Bitcoin at $2,000, Paul. It's $8,000 now. It's 400%. You could buy 4 times the house. Okay.
What's going to happen? But what if it?
Than you could before.
Right, and I understand it's an unbelievable acceleration of value, and the stock market's also been rising at this incredible rate. But was that based on anticipating Obamacare being repealed and tax cuts being voted for, and we didn't have some of these establishment Republicans stand away and doing nothing? I mean,
it's mostly the tax cuts, Paul. But what they did was people went back and they did the math and said, okay, if corporations are paying this much less in taxes, that increases their cash flow. When you increase your cash flow, they did a calculation and said, okay, the stock market's worth 25% more. Ergo, we're 25% higher. Now, then they say, okay, well, they're going to take that money. They're not going to give it to the people. This argument, people are going to get raises and all this other stuff, is garbage. They're going to turn right around and plow it right back into buying back their shares. So that's what's been pushing the stock market up, higher and higher. But you get to a point, Paul, where people do not have the income to buy the stuff. And that's when the other half of the equation comes into play. And you're starting to see it. Credit card delinquencies are up, student loan delinquencies are up, auto delinquencies are up, mortgage delinquencies are up. Commercial real estate has fallen for the first time since the financial crisis. That was the last canary in the coal mine. And so what's going to happen here, Paul, is that they remember what happened in 2008. And what they're going to do is they're going to flood the market with dollars, try to keep the stock market from collapsing.
Super
gold and silver. And do we lose you?
No. I was going to say, if they flood the market with dollars, that's quantum easing, and that's going to create super inflation, I would think. It's going to lessen the value of the dollar the more you pump out and try to keep everything afloat, the values of the dollar then lessens. So it's a temporary fix, but eventually what goes up must come down. I mean, it can't sustain it. Let me ask you a question. Retail's changing. Retail is changing. Amazon is changing the way business is done. People are buying online and having it shipped to their home in such record numbers that Walmart now is trying to figure out how they realize that they're in trouble. They realize the retailers, the shoppers are going away, and they don't have an infrastructure in place on how to get their goods delivered to the home. And so is this part of why you see retail property dropping, because the retailers are starting to struggle?
Yeah, absolutely. That plus demographics. Older people don't spend as much money, and older people are having to spend more money on healthcare. And so you have those two dynamics in place. And then, everything's shifting to the healthcare sector because, healthcare costs are going through the roof. They've already basically demonetized the young. If you're under 40, people are broke. They're basically, they can't afford rent, they can't afford a house, they can't afford a car. They're paying student loans off, and then they were saddled with this Obamacare. So now the only people that have money are people basically 50 and older, and now they're going after them by these massive healthcare increases, and now these taxes. And so, at some point, everybody's standing on the wrong side of the boat, and it tips over, Paul. So, wow. Yeah, that's why we've been banging the table. Anything you want to start moving out of financial related stuff into real stuff. Oil, gold, miners, cryptocurrencies, and that's the stuff that we do. At TradeGeniusAcademy.com, is that we have those tools, Paul. So, we've been helping people. I mean, we have people that literally have become overnight crypto millionaires by using some of the things and tools that we provide in the trading room that we have. Literally. We have people that are able to afford things they could never afford before because of just the massive amount of wealth they're able to accumulate over the last 6 to 8 months. And this is just the beginning. We're going to have 2 more moves like this, Paul. And, we want people to, be part of that with us so we can guide them through when the pauses happen. So, hey, let's take some off the table. Next big move's coming, another pause, and then the big move's coming. And then by then, you're at the seat at the table, and you're able to dictate terms versus sitting back there and saying, what truck was that hit me? We want to be driving the truck. We don't want to be the one getting hit by the truck.
Folks, this is Bob Kudla at TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Bob Kudla, he's at TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Go to his website, check out what he's doing. You've got some, it's an academy. So in other words, you're training people, you're teaching people how to participate in different markets, I take it. As you just said, whether it be in the stock market, whether it be in cryptocurrency, whether it be in other commodities, oil, and maybe other commodities they can be involved in. So tell us, you have you got a Black Friday special? Can you tell us what you got going here?
Yeah, so thanks for that run up. Yeah, so we do 3 different things, Paul. We have training courses where we can help people learn about how to trade stocks and options and futures, and also a whole course set on cryptocurrencies so that they can get up to speed on what this even is. And then in addition to that, we have trading rooms where we provide signals, where we actually suggest to people, hey, this might be a good area to buy some Bitcoin or some of the other major cryptocurrency coins. And also what coins to stay away from. 90% of them are going to go away and would be worth nothing. We'll help people avoid those kind of disasters. And in addition to that, we wrote software that we place on either Thinkorswim or on TradingView that actually puts buy and sell signals right out on the software so that people, once they learn how to do this, can take control of their destiny and see the signals for themselves and be able to trade right alongside us. So we do those 3 things, and we created bundles across that, Paul. So we can do, you can just buy the trading rooms, or you can bundle it with the software, you can bundle it with the currencies, And in addition to that is that if you have multiple people that want to get in it together, you could buy a subscription for a friend or for a loved one, and then you get even additional discounts from our packages. So we have 7 of them, Black Friday specials, and they're a great deal. And I think people will be really happy in the next 90 to 120 days that they joined us and really take advantage of this phenomenon. Paul, very rarely in your life do you have a chance to actually make real wealth in a very short period of time. And the cryptocurrencies, it's a new economy. It's just not a fad. It's we should do another call and we could just talk about what this thing really represents. It's really a new way of doing business. And you kind of touched on it. You go peer to peer. You and I can do business together, Paul. We talked about this before. We don't need a bank. I get to shoot it right over to you while we're talking, and you have it. No 24-hour waiting. No banker saying, I got to hold this for that, while he's getting interest on it, and nobody needs to know we did it, and so, obviously we follow the laws because we're Christians, and we give unto Caesar what is his, but at the same time is you don't have to be a servant.
So you're saying
intrusive bankers.
But in this case, you give, Jesus said it, as you quoted it, Jesus said, render to Caesar it's Caesar's, but render to God what's God's. But you're saying this ain't Caesar's money. Bitcoin is not regulated by Caesar. The government has no regulation, nor no business. It's sort of like a bartering. It's kind of like bartering, but the transaction is done by a currency created by the people involved. Is that right?
Yeah, Paul, you're putting it in great terms. Exactly what it is. It's digital bartering. It's bartering without you and I have to swap in a cow for a pig. Yeah. And exactly right. It's peer to peer. We don't need a third party in there putting their hand in there trying to sift some coins for themselves. We don't need them. Yeah. Technology is already there. Bankers are obsolete. I mean, Paul, there are some billionaires out there that are basically saying, in the next 5 to 10 years, the banking system as we know it will be gone, and it'll be replaced by this new economy. What that looks like, we don't exactly know. But what I'm saying is that the old way of doing business is gone, and what I call the parasites are all going to get eliminated through this phenomenon.
Do you think
it's not just the bankers; it's everybody, Paul? Go ahead.
Yeah, here's a question for you because you're the expert in this. I'm definitely not. I'm a layman in this, okay? No financial education at all. Let me ask you a question, though. Do you think at some point that the stock market, Wall Street, do you think Wall Street at some point says, hang on a minute, we got to figure out how to bring Bitcoin to the market? We got to figure out how to bring, maybe if it ain't Bitcoin, another currency, or create their own currency. Do you see an evolution coming to where, and which then gets regulated by the government? So do you see a power move coming yet?
Yeah, I mean they've already started that. I mean the Federal Reserves and some around the world say they want to launch their own what they call crypto or blockchain currencies. That they're going to write futures contracts on Bitcoin. So those things are in motion. The good news is, Paul, is that people don't have to play along because in the past, everything was centralized, so it had to go through a central clearinghouse. That's what the Bank of International Settlements is all about. That's what the Federal Reserve is. Those are central clearinghouses.
Wow.
Where they take a toll. Well, guess what? There is no central clearinghouse for cryptocurrencies. They can say or do whatever they want. If people don't want to play along, I'm sending my money to you, Paul. You're sending it to me. Yeah, I don't. Right. You're not getting a Jamie Dimon. It's not yours. And I think that's the thing. And it's not just that, Paul. People. Escrow companies. Anybody that keeps track or centralizes data or information is going to have to change the way they do business. Right. There won't be any centralized data storages. Even Facebook and the social media companies, in 5 to 10 years, Paul, you could create your own Facebook. It could be called Begley Book. All the people that want to hang out with you, and guess what? Instead of you getting, you doing all the work and Facebook sucking off the advertising revenue, it's going to come to you and your participants. So that's what I'm saying. This is the last hurrah.
It's a wow. This is a wild, wild west. I mean, this is the new frontier. This is the here we go again with another. It's amazing, and if you study history of markets of all kinds of industries, there's these evolution and there's these revolutions that seem to take place where people get fed up being pounded down, being sifted too hard, being overtaxed, and they say there's got to be a better way. And they start to go around. And the greediness, I think, of the feds, let's face it, since what, 1913? I mean, they have pounded. We got what? I think it's 13 people really control the money of the whole world. And these guys have been pounded. The Illuminati has been trying to control the wealth of the world. And what you're saying is people are coming together and have figured out a way to operate around it.
Yeah, and they use math, and so it's going to be it's going to be really fascinating to watch as more and more of their transactions go away. And the bankers are already suffering. So trading volumes are going away from them, and now banking transactions are going to go away from them, and and the people like Visa and MasterCard and Amex, if they don't adopt this new way. You don't have to charge. When I send money to you, and I'm talking hypothetically, I don't send money to you directly. The commission is nothing, and if I send money to you via credit card, somebody's taking 2.5% to 3%, and so all that goes away. All it takes is Microsoft or not Microsoft, Amazon or Walmart, one of those guys saying, well, hey, we're going to create our own coin to do business with us, and next thing you know, Microsoft, MasterCard and Visa are in big trouble. And a company called Square has already started that. So it's coming, Paul. It is a freight train coming fast, and I don't think people have been poo-pooing it and calling it this or calling it that or getting run over left and right, and we're helping people navigate that and making money and taking advantage of it, and that's the value we add to your listeners when they join us. The money they're going to spend being part of what we do is going to pale in comparison to the wealth they're going to be able to generate by us educating them and guiding them and mentoring them.
Folks, Bob Kudla is here. Bob Kudla from TradeGeniusAcademy.com. TradeGeniusAcademy.com. When I first met you, you said that I was fascinated by your story. When you said you study weather patterns to determine which stocks are going to go up and which ones are going to go down based on weather patterns. I sat back and wheat, if there's a bad, wheat, rice, corn. Can you share a little bit of that with the listeners?
Yeah, so right now, one that's we're setting up for right now, Paul, is that there is they're called analogs. That you look in the past to see what pattern is playing out today. It might not be perfect, but they rhyme really closely. And there's a site out there by a guy named Joe Bastardi from Weather Bell. He has the best maps out there if anybody wants to tweak them. Well, I look at those and I look at the analogs that they produce, and then I look back to see what moves up or moves down the most. And right now we're putting ourselves in position for natural gas. We think natural gas prices for this winter, early spring season could double from here based on the maps. It's going to be colder in the Midwest and the East Coast than people think for a longer period of time than people think. And the same with Western Europe. So it's going to draw down the natural gas stock. So we've already had one good run at it. We're building it for a second run at natural gas, and so we're buying all these energy names, and we're in the futures markets. And I share those things too to our stock subscribers so that they can take advantage of. And these moves are pretty profound too. You're talking, a double in natural gas prices. Somebody can make 300-400% buying the right stocks and being able to take advantage of it. And I'm talking between now and March and April, Paul. So there's some incredible moves here. We want to share those with people and for taking advantage of it. And then when we get to the spring, we'll be looking to see what the summer looks like, and we'll be making our bets based on, what the smart climate guys are telling us. Not those hokey global warming. I want to tax you for doing nothing for you guys.
Oh, my. Bob Kudliff with TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Bob Kudliff with TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Check out his website. Bob, your closing remarks here. Tell us, so if people come to your website, you got a Black Friday special going on. Tell them what they can do.
Yeah, so go to the site, TradeGeniusAcademy.com. We have 7 different Black Friday specials on there. Select them, and if you have any questions, you can hit the chat, or you can pop us an email, and somebody will call you back and be able to guide you through all the different things that we offer. And the only thing I'll say is, I say this to everybody that knows me for my whole life, is you want to be somebody who makes something happen, not let something happen to you. And then, a biblical phrase that I always loved is, be an ant, don't be a grasshopper. You have to prepare, you have to grind it. Don't live for today, because tomorrow might be really cold, you might be really hungry. And so we want to help people be the ant. We want to put people in charge of their life so they don't feel so overwhelmed. There's a lot of evil coming at us all the time, but there's no reason why we have to sit back and just absorb the blows. We can do what we need to do, legally and spiritually correctly, and provide for our families and our friends.
Well,
that's what we do. We help people make money nearly every day at TradeGeniusAcademy.com.
That's a wonderful analogy, the grasshopper and the ant. The ant stays on it. He's not a sluggard. He stays with it. And the grasshopper just sings away, thinking he'll deal with it later. But don't do anything today that you can do tomorrow. Well, in the real world, folks, that won't cut it. You got to stay on top of things. You got to keep going. And you got to, and really, as Bob, you just said, spiritually, it's important that people put the Lord first in their life, listen to the Lord, follow the word of the Lord will share with you that if you're faithful to the Lord and faithful in your faith to God, He will certainly be there to open the right doors for you and to put people in your path that you can be blessed by. Bob, thank you so much for being with us, and God bless you. And everybody check out his website again at TradeGeniusAcademy.com. God bless you, Bob.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Really good talking to you. Hopefully we'll talk to you before Christmas.
All right. God bless. Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you.